other inventory models and when to use them. The EOQ or POQ models that we considered in this topic apply when we have products that we carry for a long time or indefinitely. So these products, if we carry them over from one cycle of inventory to the other, to the next one, they don't become obsolete. They can still be used, at least for some time, they can still be used. However, there are some cases where we cannot use products at all from that are carried from one cycle to the other. There are examples of these products. We call them sometimes one-shot products. The example could be daily newspaper or a fashion product that is sold on just in one season. Right. So, for example, the next year season, we're not going to use the product that we have been selling in the current year. And in that case, we have a problem of excess stock, right? If we have excess, we have some kind of leftover, something that we couldn't sell this season. The companies often sell things at discount or either in the same shops or they sell it to some discount stores. Or the other side of the problem is we might have a stock out. And in that case, if we have a stock out and maybe if you order from a supplier who is located far away and there is a long lead time, we might not be able to replenish the inventory at all. And then in this case, we have a lost opportunity cost, which is due to the fact that we lost some potential profit from extra sales. That did not happen. Now, if you suppose that the demand in the whole season is normal with a mean mu and standard deviation sigma, and if you have also a desired in-stock probability, then you can calculate how much inventory you should order for the full season using a similar function to the ROP calculation, reorder point calculation. But notice this time this actually includes both a kind of cycle and safety inventory. This is the inventory that you order for the whole season, assuming you have just one ordering opportunity. And this, of course, inventory depends on your forecast of demand for one season. And there is usually a high likelihood that you will either have a stock out or you'll have a lot of excess inventory. It is also possible to maximize profit in this context, where if you consider that having excess inventory gives you an overage cost, and having a lost opportunity, having your stock out, gives you underage cost, the lost opportunity of extra sale. Then you can also calculate the quantity based on what we call a critical ratio, which is actually put in place of in-stock probability. And the critical ratio can be calculated as a ratio of CU underage cost divided by the sum of overage and underage costs. And the interesting thing is that actually critical ratio is just the value of in-stock probability that you should plug in this formula in order to optimize the maximize profit from this seasonal product sale. I don't want to discuss further details in this place because this model will be part of a supply chain course. However, it's important to know that there are cases where you have products that don't have a very long selling season, and because of this, they cannot be carried over, and then our EOQ model or POQ model do not apply. We have to use a different model, and this model is called the news vendor model. Another model that can be used instead of EOQ and ROP model, right, is when we have an periodic review system where inventory is reviewed periodically rather than continuously. So before, if you recall, I assumed that ROP is useful when you have a, let's say, information system that automatically reviews inventory, and the moment inventory position drops to or below ROP, an order is issued. But in some situations, it makes sense to just review inventory periodically and then issue an order. For example, you might be ordering just once a week, every Friday or another day, right, from a certain supplier, or you might have replenishments daily. Let's say in the evening you notify your supplier, and then in the morning, the following day or 2 days later or something like this, you receive the order. This kind of system is called periodic review, and then you cannot use the ROP value, and actually you cannot use the EOQ value because what you're instead of setting the quantity, right, and then ordering it whenever necessary, you set the length of the period, like 1 week, and then you order as much as necessary, right? And it might be due to randomness, these quantities might all be different. So in this case, the model that is used is called an order up to model. And the order up to model, we need a certain level S. And this level S is the inventory level to which we want to match the inventory position that when we order. So when we are at this point, we have this much inventory at that time. We want to order, we calculate how much to order is the S minus the inventory position. So it will be quantity Q1. In the next cycle, when the time comes to order and we actually have more inventory than in the previous one, then we might order quantity Q2, which is smaller, but if you receive it, you will have, again, the level equal S, and so on. So, in this case, the model is different. I'm not going to show you, again, calculations because this will be part of the supply chain course. However, this is another model that is also used for products with long shelf life, which can be carried over from one cycle to the next, but the settings under which we operate are different in a sense that rather than having a continuous review system, we have a periodic review system. So given these models, the question arises when to use which inventory model. And I hope you realize now that from the models that I showed you, we have the EOQ ROP, or order up to models are actually for the same kinds of products, right? So these are the products that we assume, at least in the model, that never become obsolete, or at least they don't become obsolete for a very long time. The number of replenishments we have is unlimited, right? We can replenish once a week and, for a very long time, or maybe in the EOQ ROP, we can replenish at any time we desire. And also, demand is occurring usually continuously. So even during the replenishment cycle, we have the demand. News vendor model is, it's on another extreme. Obsolescence is just after one period. So when I said, after one season, for the next season, the product is obsolete and we cannot sell it, at least we cannot sell it even close to the full price, we will have a very different product for the new season, new fashion, new design. So the old product might become completely obsolete. Or if you consider daily newspaper, right? Today, nobody wants to buy yesterday's newspaper. Everybody wants today's newspaper. So a number of replenishment, usually there will be one. Often these products are ordered with very long lead time. Sometimes we might have a second or third replenishment opportunity, but in the simplest case, it's just one. And of course, if these are seasonal products, we often order them way before the season begins. For example, with fashion products, we might order it even months before the beginning of the season. So for some products that have very long life cycle, the news vendor model will never be needed, right? So actually, let's consider the phases of life cycle. Sometimes people consider 4 phases: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Here there is also division into maturation and saturation, right? So as when you have a product that has been introduced a long time ago and is somewhere in the maturity stage, and you don't expect a decline to be anytime soon, you can just be happy to use EOQ ROP or order up to model. One of those models, right, will be used. The news vendor is not necessary. For products that are clearly seasonal, the news vendor model is the appropriate model. However, there are products that have some intermediate life cycles, right? So for example, there could be a product that sells for a year or two, and then the new product or new version comes. Mobile phones are a good example at this time, right? You have, I don't know, an iPhone, a certain version, but very soon there will be a new version or a Samsung phone, and the same thing, right? In the old version becomes obsolete and cannot be sold, at least cannot be sold at full price. In this case, if you have a product sold for some time and it doesn't become obsolete for this short time, you should be using one of those two models, EOQ, ROP, all order up to model, right? Depending on whether you can use continuous review or periodic review. When you approach obsolescence, you should start thinking in terms of the news vendor model. Why? Because close to decline, you will actually discover that if you are left with many units of the products, you will not be able to sell them at the full price, and therefore you will have a very high cost of leftover inventory, cost that is related to the fact that now you have to decrease the price and maybe even sell them at a loss, right? Because many firms actually miss this moment, they often operate with too high service levels for too long, right? They end up with too much inventory when the product becomes obsolete, and they actually have very high costs. So be careful that not to make this mistake when you manage inventory.